Hey guys, welcome back to the CxG podcast. It's been a long time. I'm joined with my co-host, Joe. How you doing?
All right, Josh, how have you been?
I've been good, man. It's been a busy couple of months. The podcast has been on a little bit of a hiatus. I had some crazy hours at work, and then I lost my job abruptly one day without really much explanation. Kind of freaked out for a few weeks, and then started going back to school, got a new job. I'm busy as hell, but it's good to be back, man.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's been a while since we've talked, actually, so it'll be a nice way to catch up and also get another podcast out there. So, why don't we start with the thing that's on everybody's mind recently, the new consoles. None of them are out in Japan, so I don't really have much to say. But I know you have a PlayStation 4, and people probably want to hear your thoughts on the other systems as well. So, go into it. How's your PS4?
I really enjoy the PlayStation 4 as a system. I think it's a great looking system. One of the things that I am most impressed with is the new controller, man. I don't know what the talk has been. I know it's been really well received, but the DualShock 4 is just an incredible controller. And looking back, I've been playing a lot of PlayStation 2 lately. To be honest, I think I might even like the DualShock 2 more than the PlayStation 3 controller. I just wasn't a fan of those back triggers, the way they did that.
Yeah, those are awful on the PS3. They're kind of mushy, and
Yeah, they're awful, man. And I can't believe that such little was changed between the PS2 and the PS3, and what little they did change was kind of for the worse, man.
yeah, I'm glad to hear that the controller is better. I think it's been a pretty good reaction from everybody about it, but I haven't even seen one, so I don't really know what it's like.
Yeah, much more comfortable. The back triggers are much more comfortable feeling in the hand. The overall controller is much more comfortable to hold. It's got a really nice speaker. Like the first time I picked up an audio log in Killzone, I was like blown away by the speaker quality in the actual controller.
Is it
And it's
good?
got,
Like, is it better than, for example, the Wii has a speaker and the microphone, but it sounds like kind of like I don't know, a toy for a kid. Like it sounds like really tinny.
yeah, if the Wii controller speaker was like a 3 out of 10, I'd say this is probably an 8 out
Wow,
of 10.
it's that good.
It's really clear, really precise and clear. Like I said, the first time you play it and something comes through that speaker, you'll be impressed. I wasn't expecting it. It's got a big LED light on the back, and I'm pretty sure I don't have the camera yet, but I'm sure that's like for interacting with the camera. I will say that the battery life is atrocious in the DualShock 4. It dies rather quickly, which is a kind of a drawback for sure.
Hmm.
But unlike the Xbox One, where it's got battery still, which is a total pain in the ass. I know you can buy the rechargeable kit and whatever. That's just more money you got to spend. This one you can still charge it, but it dies quickly. But overall, the analog sticks are a little farther apart, so your thumbs aren't touching anymore.
Oh, okay. Can
You're
you play games with the controller plugged in? Like on the PS3, you can just plug in a USB cable and continue playing even if your controller is dying.
Yeah, you can still do that,
Okay,
which
so
is a
that's
plus.
fine.
It is. It's just the cable that it comes with is a little short still, so you're kind of tethered.
Okay.
Pretty close. Controller's great. System looks great. Very quiet. Remote play is fantastic if you have a Vita, and I really hope this is kind of a big selling point to start moving more Vitas. It is starting to pick up, like the indie scene on the Vita is picking up incredibly, and sales are much stronger now. But the remote play works flawlessly. Everything looks great on the Vita screen, so that's definitely a plus. If you have,
Actually, that's one of the things I'm really excited about because there's lots of times where like, I know some people are just like, I don't want to play on a small screen, but sometimes like when I want to play some games, I'm just thinking, man, I wish I could lie in my bed and play this also. And I think the Vita is perfect for that. Like, I can just
yeah,
stream the game right to my Vita, and then I can go in another room and continue playing. I think that's something that I like.
definitely, and it works really well. Everything looks great. So that's a big plus. Um, the games are probably the biggest problem I have with the system right now. Don't get me wrong, like Resogun is fantastic. It's a downloadable game. I'd say the standout hit of the system for me right now is Warframe, which is a free-to-play game done by Digital Extremes, and it's an online like multiplayer hack and slash game where you go from like planet to planet, and like every day there's massive updates. Like I have to log on every day to get my updates and all my new weapons and the the earning the ore and the it's just an awesome game, really addictive, a lot of fun to play online. Um, in terms of like retail games, I'll be honest, I'm pretty disappointed overall. I being such a big fan of Jack and Dexter, Sly Cooper, Ratchet and Clank being one of my favorites. Knack was a total letdown, and coming into this, I when some of the early reviews started coming out, I read some of the reviews and I was like, oh come on, this can't be, it can't be this bad, it can't be this average. I'll say because none of the reviews have said Knack is a bad game. It's just painfully average, and after getting the final game and playing it, it is just that, a very average game. It's a beat 'em up at heart, not much platforming at all. So to call it a platformer is an inservice to the game. It's not a platformer. There's very few jumping segments in the game. But the biggest problem I have with Knack is just the overall blandness. The coolest aspect of the game is being able to grow in size, and you can't even do that like at will. It's very scripted when you get big, and when you are big, you don't stay big for very long outside of a few sections. It's just a run-of-the-mill story, not much charm to it. No like upgrades throughout the game, no weapons. It's just a really average game.
Hmm.
Oh, and it missed the mark. It could have been like, there's not a lot of games like that out these days outside of like the indie scene. It could have been a nice niche filled,
Yeah, I remember
and
you being really excited about Knack, and it's weird because like I think even Sony doesn't have a lot of faith in it because it's 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 a free game when it comes out in Japan. Like it's a pack-in,
oh wow.
so it's not even a retail game. I don't think.
Wow, that does say a lot. I would be okay with it if it was free, but having paid $60 for it, I'm not happy. I'm definitely not happy. I was hoping this game would be kind of like one of those aforementioned titles, like Ratchet or Jack, where it'd be like maybe a sequel every 2 years or something, and it just doesn't have like a hook to it. That the growing in size could have been the game's hook if you could have some control over it and really feel like a badass when you're big, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's so scripted, and it's just the game is okay. I don't like regret it. I'm not like kicking myself in the ass and losing sleep over buying it, but it just when you had high hopes for something and it's a kind of a genre of game that you really enjoy and you're looking forward to something like that, it's kind of a letdown, man. Um,
Yeah,
you know,
I think that's the problem with getting a launch system is that either the system, all the new games that come out are either stuff that's also coming out on the previous systems, things like Assassin's Creed and stuff like that, or it's going to be new stuff that's kind of untested. So like you don't know something like Knack where it might be good, but it might not be, and you don't really have much choice. So it's not like you can pick something else in that genre. So it's the kind of
yeah,
thing where like as a release game, people will buy it almost like because there's not really many other options, and you you kind of get the short end of the stick sometimes, and it seems like that's what happened with Knack.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, like you said, if this would have came out 2 years after the system was released, I don't think anybody would even be paying any attention to it. But Killzone is more Killzone. If you enjoy Killzone series, you're gonna love this entry. I like the Killzone games. I'm not too hardcore into first-person shooters, aside from games like BioShock and like a few others that use the first-person perspective. But if you wanna be impressed and see what the next generation has where it's going visually and you want to be wowed, then definitely because I first popped in Killzone, I'll admit I was pretty I was pretty impressed. It's a beautiful looking game. The environments like stretch on for miles in the distance. The draw distance is extremely expansive. Everything is polished. Texture work is gorgeous. Gunplay is great. But with that being said, it's another Killzone game. It's another first-person shooter. So I'm not the biggest fan of the genre, but it's an enjoyable game. It looks great. So if you're into Killzone, you want to see what the system can do. It's probably the best retail example of the capabilities of the system from a graphical standpoint. So I enjoyed Killzone. And the final game I picked up was Need for Speed Rivals, which I'm a big fan. Need for Speed is probably my favorite arcade racing series that's out there. And this was a great entry. Graphics really look good. Uh, sure, it was probably primarily developed for the next gen or the previous generation's capabilities, but it still looks really good. It'd probably look better if it was built from the ground up for the new systems, I'm sure. But gameplay wise, super fast. The frame rate never sputters. It's a great looking game. The car selection is awesome. The cars look great. Huge open world. Members of the Criterion team, I think, is on Ghost, the development team for this. So it feels a lot like a combination of Most Wanted and Hot Pursuit kind of mixed in together. And overall, I really enjoyed. I probably spent the most time outside of Warframe playing Need for Speed.
So are you telling me that you didn't get Assassin's Creed 4?
Well, I did get Assassin's Creed 4, but I've got the entire series on the 360. So,
Okay.
like when it came out, man, I was so hyped up to play the game. I bought the game on the 360 and I had to play it on that because I would it have been the smarter thing to just wait and get the next generation version probably. But you know what? I'm sure it's got better graphics, in terms of environments or whatever, but it's not built from the ground up. So with that in mind, I'm okay with kind of closing out the series on the Xbox 360. And when the next one comes out that's built from the ground up, then I'll either, get it for the PS4 or the Xbox One,
I
whatever.
heard that there's going to be two new Assassin's Creed games next year, and that
Yep.
one is going to be based on the old engine, and one will be based only for the next gen consoles. So like it'll be another one on the 360 and PS3, and then a different one that's not on those, only on the PS4 and the Xbox One.
Yeah, I heard the same thing. And now don't forget, we've also got the HD
Liberation.
kind of port remake of that, which it sounds like they've added quite a bit new um, content into that console port. So it's a lot of Assassin's Creed, and I know what people are already thinking. And I hear so many people bitching about Assassin's Creed, and then you ask them, what have you played? Oh, I played the first one. I didn't like it, and I played a little bit of the second one, and it was better. But I haven't played any of the other ones. But it sucks. They just keep doing the same thing. So it's like, listen, I'm talking to everyone out there. If you haven't, okay, if you don't like the game, that's great. That's fine. But don't go out there and try to spread that the series sucks if you haven't sat down and played the entries in the series and know what you're talking about with the overall story, because it's stupid, man. It's a great series. If it's not your thing, that's cool. But don't badmouth it unless you've really sat down and played every entry. And if that's not your thing, then that's fine too. But
Yeah,
it
man.
really,
You know what about Assassin's Creed? I'm way behind in Assassin's Creed. I haven't played 3 yet, so like I'm not even thinking about 4. But
uh
I could understand if you played Assassin's Creed 1 and you were just like, oh, this is kind of boring, because Assassin's Creed 1 is kind of boring. You have like, I mean, you can see the potential in there, but it's, there's like 5 missions you do over and over again.
yeah,
And, but Assassin's Creed 2 fixes a lot of that. And then
yeah,
when you get like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, I think a lot of people from there started kind of writing off the series as just like, oh, it's just going to be this like yearly, barely any changes upgrade. You know what I mean? But the difference between Assassin's Creed 2 and Assassin's Creed Brotherhood is huge. There's a really big difference between those games.
There
And
is.
like there's a whole bunch of new systems added in. There's a whole bunch of like interesting little changes and things that they've done to make the game feel totally different. And that game also brought in the online. And you know, when a formerly single player game gets online, people tend to think like, oh, it's just kind of tacked on multiplayer that nobody's ever going to play.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would generally agree with that because a lot of times that's true. But the Assassin's Creed multiplayer was actually a lot of fun and different. It was different
Yeah.
than your kind of standard, we're in a deathmatch kind of thing. And that's essentially what it is, but the way it works is totally different. And it's really cool because, like, you have to use a lot of stealth and do a lot of searching. And I really thought, like, I thought it was going to be tacked on. I thought like I'm gonna play this once and I'm never gonna touch it again. And then like my friend and I started playing and we're like, this is actually really good. And
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
I think Assassin's Creed doesn't get enough credit for changing things between the iterations. And I know like Assassin's Creed 3 didn't get like all that good reviews, and I haven't played it yet. And I'm not saying I didn't get it because of the reviews. I just like kind of I finished Revelations like 2 weeks before 3 came out, and I was just like, I'm not playing another game in the Assassin's Creed series right after I just beat one.
Right. Right. Which is understandable. But yeah, I totally agree. I think the multiplayer was, I think it's very original. You know, it's a lot of fun. And like you said, people do give a lot of flack for not a lot of change in the series when really I think that even the first one, when I first played Assassin's Creed back in like 2007, you know, everybody's played like an open world game, but at that point when that was released, I had not really played a game that gave you like so many different things to do, like in ways to do it. You know, it was I first played it, I didn't know, like I was like, okay, what do I do? I mean, I've got this huge town, and I can get on a horse and I can ride in this huge expansive map, and then, you know, do I climb these viewpoints, or do I, you know, what do I do? There was just an overwhelming feeling of like, here's this huge open world now, you know, go start killing people. And I was floored by it. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, you
You
know
know.
what? My problem with Assassin's Creed 1 was that I played 2 before I played 1,
Oh,
and
yeah, that'll do it.
yeah, it feels like a totally different kind of game because it really is like kind of stripped down compared to 2. And
Definitely.
I'm not that's not to say I didn't enjoy playing 1, because if I didn't enjoy it I wouldn't have played the whole thing. But I went through the whole story and I thought like, oh, it's pretty good, but it's not like great. But I had already thought Assassin's Creed 2 was a pretty good game. So,
Yeah.
and
I the different assassinations in the first one were what, sure, it's basically doing the same thing over and over again until you beat it, but what made it cool for me was each individual assassination was pretty original in the way, like one that sticks out to me is where you're like kind of creeping the courtyard and they're having this big like meeting this guy as like the leader of some type of faction, and you know they spread the wine around, and in like a few minutes in you realize the wine has been poisoned and everybody's like kind of like collapsing around you, and you gotta, you know, go up to the sky. And I just remember chasing him, and it was just awesome. And you get to the other part where this doctor is supposedly like curing all these sick people, but he's really like performing these experiments on them, and just like each different assassination had like a little backstory to it. And I was really entertained by each little kind of mini scenario of each guy that you had to kill, and that's what made the game special for me, you know, despite the repetition.
yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, I enjoyed those stories too. That's a lot of the reason why I kept playing, even though like it felt like, Assassin's Creed 1 had the problem where it felt like a collectathon. And
Yeah.
it was totally unnecessary to collect all the flags, but there were like 400 something flags. That's like out of control stupid.
Yeah, yeah. That's when I play the Assassin's Creed games. I like to get all the viewpoints and some of the objectives, but I don't go like kind of crazy. You know, when it started getting to like the later entries and you had the different sequences, I did want to get those. But like the smaller collectible things, I kind of ignored. You know, I'm not gonna lie. I'm guilty of ignoring that stuff.
Yeah, because you know what? I didn't like those kind of collectathon games when they were out on the Nintendo 64 or whatever, and I don't like
Yeah.
them now. So I always felt like that's the worst part of Assassin's Creed, having to collect a million things. So
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
was like that's always the weakest part for me. But it's it's optional. It's not something like you have to do, but it's the kind of thing
Right.
where like you kind of feel like you want to do it, but you don't. You know what I mean? Like it's there, and you
Yep.
just feel like I keep running into these by accident. Now I have half of them. Should I just go
Yeah.
back and collect the rest that are all in awkward positions that it's hard to get to? You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
the kind of thing where like it's that part of the game isn't fun for me. But it's
Right.
again it's totally optional, so it doesn't really take away from the overall enjoyment. It's just
Yeah.
just the kind of thing where like I feel it's like totally unnecessary. But I'm sure there's people
For
who
sure.
like it, so I'm not gonna say they should take it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So overall, like Assassin's Creed, like the fourth one is up there with my favorites in the series. They got the ship stuff down just perfect this time, and the pirate theme is obviously awesome. So the fourth one overall very enjoyable. I probably will end up upgrading to the next gen version when it drops in price or whatever, and figure something out a way to trade up. But that's probably the my son got Battlefield on the PlayStation 4 as well. He's been enjoying that. The game does look great. I can't comment on it because I can't do the war online multiplayer first person shooter. So that's a good looking game, and that's about the extent of the PlayStation 4. My stepbrother bought an Xbox. He's like a total Xbox fanboy. Like him and all of his buddies are online playing Call of Duty every night. So they obviously all went with the Xbox One. And I stopped over there and did get a chance to play the Xbox One, and I do want one. It's just I'm not going to spend thousands of dollars, before Christmas. I will get an Xbox One in time, and it's interesting to note that around here in my area, PlayStation 4 is gone. You cannot find one anywhere. Every store I've been to, completely out. The second they get in, they're gone. And the Xbox One is just the opposite. I've seen 10 of them at Toys R Us. They've been at Myers. Everywhere I go, they have them in stock. So that take that for what you will. But the Xbox One is also a very impressive system. I think the controller is probably the best in the business. Uh, I'm sure you've heard about the added sensitivity and rumble to the back triggers.
Yeah, I'm pretty interested in that actually. Sounds pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, it works even better than you think, man. I played Forza using them, and it's like the effect was so great that it kind of feels empty going back to Need for Speed on the PS4 without the rumble in the back because it almost like coincides with the engine and the way the motor runs and the vibration and the turning and the oversteer and downshifting. I mean, it really reacts just incredibly, man. It makes you feel like it's like a real tactile feel to it. It really enhances the gameplay experience. A really cool addition to the controller, and I'll be honest, the 360 controller is probably my favorite. I mean, I love the placement of the analog sticks, and overall, it feels really nice controller. The system I think looks pretty cool. Didn't really mess around with Connect too much, but I really enjoyed Rise. I played a little bit of that, and the game looks amazing. Excellent graphics, uh, great combat system. I really enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed Dead Rising 3 from what little I played of it. Killer Instinct was great. He didn't download the Crimson Dragon or whatever, so I can't comment on that. But pretty impressed with both systems, to be honest. And I do want an Xbox One for sure.
Yeah, I think
So
the Xbox One is kind of like you. It'll probably be second on my list. You know what I mean? The
yeah,
I don't think there's right now. There's not enough games for me to buy one. But again, they're like. I mean, I'm not saying games out right now. I mean games announced for the system that I want to play.
yeah,
And that's not this. There probably are actually, but since I'm gonna have the PS4 as like kind of my main system, anything that's multi-platform, I just put on that list. So
yeah.
there has to be, I guess, 10 exclusives for the Xbox One that I want to play. And right now, that's it's not there. So,
Right.
but I also have the benefit of that. I don't even have a release date for the Xbox One in Japan yet. So,
Yeah, they're totally not even. And it's funny. The Xbox One, I would say over here has definitely got the stronger of the launch lineups, and I almost at times I thought to myself, man, I kind of wish I would have went with the Xbox One first, but it's not really that big of a deal. Like I said, I will get one pretty soon, but it definitely does, in my opinion, it has a stronger launch lineup. I'd rather be playing Rise or Dead Rising 3 over Knack, and I could do without a Killzone right now. You know what I mean? So Need for Speed's available on both. So I probably would have been better off going with an Xbox One to start with, just for the immediate playing of games. But overall, I know I'm gonna like the PlayStation 4 more with the more diverse library. You know what I mean? So I'm not upset that I went with it first, but I think it definitely has a stronger launch lineup right now.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, not that I've played any of the games, but just looking at the games, like what's out and for each system, there's more out right now that I want in the Xbox One than there is on the PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
I think like a lot of the people who have bought a PS4 that I know and have talked about the games haven't
Uh-huh.
really picked up a lot of stuff that I'm interested in. There's very little I'm interested in for the launch of the PS4, actually. The thing is that when it comes out in Japan, it has different launch titles.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, I think all the ones that are out in the U.S. will be out on the Japanese launch. But the only game I'm really interested in at launch is the new Yakuza game,
Okay.
and that's a launch game in Japan. So,
Nice.
I mean, when I get my PS4, I'm gonna get I'm gonna get it with that game. But I don't know actually when I'm going to get the PS4. I'm not going to get it at launch because I'm just not going to be able to play it. I
Yeah.
mean, I there's I mean, I really want the Yakuza game, but not. I mean, 2 weeks after the PS4 comes out, Dark Souls 2 will be out, and I'm not gonna be playing the Yakuza for. I mean, I'll probably have beaten Yakuza by then, and then the PlayStation 4 will just be sitting there collecting dust until more stuff comes out.
Yeah.
And I might as well just wait and get it at a lower price. I mean, the game, not the system, obviously.
Yeah, that's the smart thing to do. One of the things that caught me by surprise on PlayStation 4 was live. It's a feature called Live from PlayStation. Have you heard of this?
It's like streaming. Is that what it is?
Yeah, like it's a tab you can go to and you just click on it and it kind of like brings up a page and it's just got little squares going out. Kind of like if you're browsing somebody's YouTube channel where it's just got squares of all their videos and they're live streams, man, and it is like unscripted reality TV at its finest, man. Like there's already been like a big storm of like controversy, I guess, like you have to have the camera obviously to take part in this if you want to stream yourself, but it's basically like running your own little web show from your house that people watch and comment. And the other day, I guess a husband and a wife or a boyfriend and girlfriend, I don't know, they were on there broadcasting themselves and they had been drinking and she was like dancing and then all of a sudden the clothes started coming off, dude. And I guess like tits and ass were showing on there and like the screen went black and they took them off the air and like I guess there's like a bunch of controversy going on. The other night I was talking to Point Blank and he's like, "Oh my God, dude, you gotta check out this live from PlayStation." I go on and I see this girl like dancing and stuff, man. And I think I saw like a boob or an ass or something, and then the screen shut down and went black. They obviously are like kind of watching this pretty closely, but it's funny to see some of this crazy shit going on for people's homes, man, with the PlayStation,
Man,
dude.
didn't they shut that down off of Twitch recently?
I think they did, yeah, like, but it's still you can still watch it from like the homepage of the PlayStation,
Ah, okay. It's just not streaming on Twitch anymore, so you can actually
Yeah,
watch it directly from the PS4.
directly from the PS4, yeah, and it's
Man.
of course, something like this is going to bring out all the crazy bastards, man. I mean, granted, there's a lot of people that just like will be sitting there and talking about games and like showing off games that they bought or like doing a playthrough of a game and talking to people and people are texting and chatting and whatever. And I saw a guy there like talking about all of his dogs. He had like animals everywhere and. There's a lot of people that I'm sure use it for the well-being or whatever, but there's always going to be some crazy people that crazy shit goes on.
Yeah,
You know.
man, that's gonna be it's gonna be a source of ridiculous news articles on gaming sites for the entire generation. It's
Oh
just gonna be
yes.
like kids bullied on PlayStation 4 camera or whatever. It's just going to be full of
Yeah.
stuff like that. All every couple of months, there's going to be something. I bet.
I knew the nudity thing would be an issue right off the bat, dude. You get people drinking and crazy women, in front of a camera, dude, and a husband that's, I could see that coming, dude.
Yeah. So
For all of the next generation talk and all the hype and new systems and everybody getting caught up, we can't forget that the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360, but to be honest, more so, I think the PlayStation 3 has still got quite a healthy release schedule of games that are scheduled to come out over the next year and I'm sure even to the next. I'm sure the 360 too, but a lot of games that I've seen are PlayStation 3 exclusives. But what are some of the games, if any, that you're still looking forward to? I know you said Dark Souls 2, but other games that are quietly coming out in 2014 and beyond.
man, the thing with this is that like I know a lot of people are really excited about the next generation or whatever of consoles, but I think like that excitement, it's a little premature. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like everybody I know who has a PS4 is just kind of like, all right, I got a PS4 and I enjoyed what I have, but where are my new games? I don't have any games to play now, so I'm just back to my PS3 or back to my 360.
Yep.
And the thing with that is that there are games coming out for the new systems, but the stuff that's going to be coming out next year, I'm willing to say that probably all the best games that are going to be out next year are going to be on the previous systems.
Yeah.
And
It's like real quick, but before before we go on to this, my stepbrother is one of those guys that kind of did this thing where he got rid of everything he owned. He traded in everything to get the new system. And it's like I don't see how you could do that, man, because I mean, like you said, once you get over the initial new system, then you're going, you've gotten all the excitement you can, then you go back to your old games, man. I feel bad for people that have like traded in their whole libraries to get these new systems, man. I could never do it.
I couldn't even imagine doing that because you'd literally have two or three games, and that would be
Yep.
it. I mean, you after a couple weeks, you'd pretty much be like, well, I don't have any games to play, and there's no new games coming out for a month or two.
Yeah, and GameStop gives you such little credit. Like, there's a new Tomb Raider coming out for the PS4, like the souped up version of the Tomb Raider game that came out last year.
Yeah,
And I was really thinking, it's got all these new textures and all the DLC, and I enjoyed Tomb Raider, but I didn't get around to finishing it. So I'm like, oh, maybe I could, trade this Tomb Raider game in at GameStop. I'm going to be getting it on the PS4. I want the best version. So I took it into GameStop, and I think they offered me, I think, $4 for it.
damn.
So I mean, at this point, dude, with the way and the rate at which these games drop in price, you know, you're gonna go to GameStop and they're just gonna rob your ass, man. It's not gonna even be worth it with how fast these games drop in price. They're just gonna rob you. So just hold on to your games, man, if you're thinking something like that.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. It's just uh I don't know. The current gen systems, whatever they are, the 360 and the PS3 are definitely gonna be strong next year. And
Yep.
okay, in my case, Dark Souls 2 is gonna like eat up months of my life. That's gonna be like I'm gonna be all over that.
Oh, for sure.
But besides that, I'm still looking forward to that South Park game, the South Park, the Stick of Truth. I'm
Hmm.
hoping that's gonna be good. It looks, if you're a fan of South Park, it looks like something that's gonna be totally fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, let's see. Of course, Persona 5 is gonna come out at the end of next
Yeah,
year.
big Persona announcements a couple weeks ago,
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely that and the other Persona fighting game, the sequel to I don't know if it's I guess it's a sequel. Uh,
And what was the other one? It was for the Vita, like wasn't it a dancing rhythm
yeah,
game?
there is that one also for the Vita,
Okay.
and then there's the 3DS one also. But
And then that's like what, a dungeon? Is it a dungeon
yeah,
crawler?
actually, it to me it looks like it's gonna be quite a bit like Etrian Odyssey.
Okay.
The battles for that game look like first person Etrian Odyssey battles.
Okay.
It'll probably
Okay.
be third person around the dungeons, and then the battles will be like Etrian Odyssey, is my guess.
Right. So definitely a lot to look forward to for Persona fans on the old consoles in 2014 for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Just recently, Drakengard 3 came out about a couple days ago.
I'm really looking forward to that one too. I love the first two.
And I think um, for you guys in the US, if you like Japanese games, there's a bunch of stuff that's already out here that's going to be coming out there that
Mhm.
everyone should be looking forward to. I guess like The Witch and the Hundred Nights is another one.
Yeah, I saw that on Amazon the other day.
That one, that I mean, that's been out here since the summer, I think. But
Uh,
the that one got really good reviews. Looked really good.
I'm really surprised that that kind of came out of left field for me because the first Drakengard came out, it didn't get that good of reviews. Like for me, that's why I was so excited when Lair was like first announced for the PS3. It kind of like took me back. I'm such a huge fan of like games where you can like ride a dragon and get off that dragon and like hack and slash. To me, when I first saw Drakengard, I was like, okay, this combines like Panzer Dragoon flying around on a dragon with like Dynasty Warriors and like merges them into one game and obviously the end result wasn't quite that, but Drakengard was like a really dark storyline, man. That kind of threw me off. I wasn't expecting
Yeah,
that. This
Drakengard is amazing.
was, oh man, I really loved the first one on the PS2 and its sequel, man. I still have them both, man, and I just couldn't believe that of all times, for the series to be so dormant and to not to be that successful in the first place, that we got an announcement for the third one. I was extremely happy, but very
Yeah,
surprised.
it's weird because Drakengard didn't get very good reviews. It got like pretty almost bad reviews for the most part. It's
Yeah.
the thing is that as a game, like the gameplay is pretty mediocre. It's not it does take the kind of flying of dragons and like Dynasty Warriors basically and mashes those two together and
Yeah.
the product the end product is like a mediocre mix of both of those.
It really is too. Nothing special about the individual systems, but it's when it all comes together for me, it just
Yeah,
worked.
what happens with that though is that the story is so fucked up. Like, it's seriously that game is off the charts crazy. And
Yeah.
like it's the kind of game where you're playing and your character is totally unlikable and
Mhm.
he's unlikable because he's more of a villain than anybody you're fighting.
Yeah.
And the party people your party members are even worse. So like it's the kind of thing where like, you know, if you remember that game, like your character is essentially like this horrible revenge machine. He just wants to kill everybody. And like your party members, there's like your sister who wants to have like some kind of incestuous relationship with you. You have the kind of creepy child molester guy that joins up with you. You've got the kid, the baby killing mother who wants to have more babies to kill or whatever. Everybody in that game is fucked up. Like that game is off the charts crazy. And
Yep.
when you play it, like it's hard to like anybody, but it's so like captivating because it's just the kind of thing where like you don't see that kind of thing very often. So you want to play it and you get through it and you're just like, I hated everybody in this game and I'm glad they died. But you know, it's the kind of thing where like you're essentially the villain. There's no way around it. There's no way you're not the villain.
Yep. And that's the thing with the series is that you're not going to play another series like this. It's just not going to happen in terms of story and even really the dragon and the fighting thing, man. There's not really too many dragon games that are done well where you can get off, get back on, and then hack and slash. And I kind of like the weapon system too, how it had like that weapon wheel where you get the different weapons, and as you fight more, you get longer combos. And the hack and slash was definitely nothing special, but and they had like the one fucking loop of music that looped over and over and over.
Yeah.
But I just enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed the first. I enjoyed the second one just as much, and the third one, I can't wait.
Did you play Nier?
I did play Nier, and that's like kind of like in the same like it's kind of like a spin-off, I believe, or whatever, in the
Yeah,
same.
it's like a branch off one of the endings of the first game.
Yeah, yeah, and that to me like Nier. The second I put that in, and like you turn the system on, she's like, "Why is you goddamn fucking idiot? I'll fucking burn your pages and throw you the fucking furnace. I was like, holy shit, dude, this girl's out of her fucking mind. And the music in that game is absolutely fucking breathtaking, man. I love the music in Nier, and I just the whole theme of the game and the overall like kind of just like bleakness of it all and the changing gameplay styles, man. That is one underrated game for sure. Nier,
Yeah, that
definitely.
game really didn't get good reviews. It got really mediocre reviews. And
Yep.
it's kind of sad because that game, again, is totally underrated. It's such a good
Very much.
game. If you play Nier, it's the kind of game where like people who have played it and played through it almost universally love it. It's the kind of thing where
Yeah.
like anybody who I know who's played it has like nothing bad to say about Nier. It's always ranking really high in their lists of like favorite games. And
Yeah.
it's weird because when it came out, all the reviews were like sixes and stuff. It was just like it got really bad reviews, and I thought like I couldn't understand why. There's lots of things
Yeah.
where like I don't understand why things get bad reviews in a lot of cases because sometimes it just turns out to be the kind of thing where it's really good but didn't get good reviews for some reason.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so Drakengard 3 that came out and I haven't bought it yet because I'm playing four games like simultaneously, so I don't have time to play it. But anything you're looking forward to for next year?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Well, first off, the Tales of series. Obviously, we haven't gotten Exilia 2 yet. We
Yeah.
haven't. There's the HD, the Tales of Symphonia HD Chronicles,
Okay.
which I pre-ordered my copy. Like that once again, pre-orders opened up and were sold out like super quick. It comes with like six little like statue figurines of the different characters in the game. So really looking forward to Exilia 2 and HD Chronicles Symphonia. They announced a brand new Tales game also. Shit,
Tales of Zestiria.
Zestiria, yes, sir. So if you're a Tales fan, there's like plenty to look forward to. Now, is Zestiria, is that out in Japan already,
No,
or is that
that's the newest one. So,
okay?
but all the other two you mentioned have been out already for a while.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, what's it called? Exilia has been out. Exilia 2 has been out for more than a year, I think.
Oh,
And the Tales of Symphonia HD version has been out for months. I'm
okay.
pretty sure it's months. I remember seeing it in a store about 2 months ago. So
Okay. Yeah, the Tales collection on my PS3 will be growing in size next year for sure. I'll have quite a few Tales games on the PS3. So of course I'm looking forward to that. In terms of other HD remakes, I believe the Final Fantasy X-2 HD remake is coming out pretty soon.
are you gonna get those?
Yeah, I'm gonna get them. I tried playing them on the PS. You know, to be honest with you, I've never been like a huge Final Fantasy guy.
Yeah, you know what?
Um,
I
I
played
haven't.
every Final Fantasy game up until I beat every Final Fantasy game up until 12.
Okay, that's way more than me. Like when everybody was playing Final Fantasy VII, I was playing Panzer Dragoon Saga. You know, so I largely ignored the series. I tried playing 10, and I couldn't get into it back on the PS2 days. The only Final Fantasy game that I've really gotten into has been 13 and 13-2. But those are the only ones that I like picked up on release and really tried. Now going back in my later years, I have been I played four like the complete collection on the PSP, and I really enjoyed that one. And I've played one and two Dawn of Souls, which are going way far back. But I enjoyed three on the DS, so I'm coming to appreciate Final Fantasy in playing it, as time has gone on, not necessarily when they first came out. So I want to give 10 and 10-2 HD remake a chance for sure.
You know, I recently played, not recently, like probably 5 years ago, but played a Final Fantasy X on the PS2, and I don't know. That's like it's not one of my favorite Final Fantasies,
Uh-huh.
so I wasn't thinking of picking up the HD remixes of them, or the HD remasters, or whatever they are. There's no new content, right?
I don't believe so. No,
Yeah,
I don't believe so.
yeah, and if I had picked them up, I would have probably got it on the Vita instead of the PlayStation 3.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They announced that if you bought the PlayStation 3 version, you would be able to. I don't know if it's you get the Vita version, like a crossbite type of thing. Like if you bought the PS3 version, you get the Vita version. But if you buy the Vita version, no, my bad. If you buy the PS3 version, you get both of the games on one disc. If you buy the Vita version, you can play Final Fantasy X on the cart, but it comes with a free download code for 10.2, and it's cross save. That's how it works. I believe. I'm pretty
That
sure.
might be it. I don't know how it's working in the US, but in Japan when those come out, X Final Fantasy X and 10-2 are separate games. Like they don't come together. So if you want to play 10, you can buy it separately, and you're going to buy 10-2 separately.
Oh wow.
So
Hmm.
that's I'm not doing that. I'm not
Yeah,
buying those games.
I think I like the US a little bit better.
Sounds better.
But
Sounds like a better deal.
yeah, so to finish off the HD, I want to get Kingdom Hearts the 2.5 HD remix.
You're a fan of Kingdom Hearts?
You know, that's another thing, one of those things where I bought the original when it first came out, based on like I love like old school Disney, like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Peter Pan, all that old stuff, and I couldn't really get into the games for whatever reason, the first one. And I've always thought about going. I played the 3DS version and the PSP version, and I did like those. I did like I ignored the DS ones, like the 3582 and the Read Chain of Memories, like the card game. I couldn't really get into, but I do want to give I want to see these Disney characters in the game. So all those times I tried playing it on the PS2, I never got far enough to see like all the characters. So I want to give. I bought the first one, the Kingdom Hearts 1.5 remix on the PS3. So I want to give this series a proper chance. So that's where I'm at with those.
Okay, I'm not a fan of Disney, so even when those came out, I was like a pretty big fan of Final Fantasy at the time, but I was still like, I don't like Disney, so I'm probably not gonna like this game. So I never even bought those. I mean, I it was weird because like I my girlfriend at the time had the first one, and I watched her play it for a little while, but I was just not interested. So I've never actually played through a Kingdom Hearts game, but I know a lot of people are going to be like, you have to play Kingdom Hearts, but I don't feel like I have to play Kingdom Hearts. You know what I mean? Like I feel like
Yeah,
I'm just not
yeah,
interested. It doesn't grab me in any way. There's no hook for the game to like make me want to play it because I don't like
yeah,
Disney. I mean,
yeah. If you don't like Disney, there's no point. Guys. For me, just growing up watching like Donald Duck was always my favorite, and I loved watching Goofy. So, and I loved Peter Pan, and like just seeing those guys again is where it's at for me.
and it's weird because like if I were to play a Disney game, I would. You know what sounded like a really good Disney game for me? That one that was on the Wii. Um, what's it called? Mickey Mouse something something.
Epic
Epic
Mickey.
Mickey. There we go.
Okay.
Because in theory, that one sounded like it was going to be best for me because it seemed like they were pulling out all the like weird 1920s characters out of no in that game,
Yeah,
and that was what
yeah.
I was interested in. I was pretty interested in that, but in practice, that game didn't quite turn out as I was expecting it to.
Yeah, I think it's for me, and it's also the same thing that actually killed the sequel on the 3DS. Like, in theory, I should have loved that new Mickey Mouse like Power of Illusion or whatever, but it's that freaking painting and thinning mechanic, man. It totally bogs the game down on the 3DS. It slows it to a crawl. I hate the paint and thinning mechanics, and I just wish that whole concept was just taken out back and shot, man, because it ruined the game for me, and I really didn't dig it in the Epic Mickey games
Yeah,
either.
it's weird
I
because like I really liked that. I like that kind of black and white 1920s cartoons, though I'm not a huge fan of the Mickey, the Disney cartoons, I guess.
yeah.
I'm more of a Bosco guy. I don't know. uh, I like like the 1930s Popeye cartoons, stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess like the Fleischman brothers or whatever, who that's who did those, right?
I believe so, man. I'm rusty on the old stuff, dude.
But I like that kind of style more. I wish they would make a
Mhm.
game in that kind of style, but you, there's like nobody who would buy that. Me and nobody else, I think. So
Yeah.
if they made a 1930s version of Popeye, I guess minus the crazy racism, it
Uh,
would probably be pretty good.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, other than that, off the top of my head, like Lords of Shadow 2.
Oh yeah, I
Uh,
forgot about that. I'm pretty excited for that too because the first one was really good. I really enjoyed the first one.
definitely, definitely. There's like a coffin like special edition that's coming out, I believe, exclusively to the UK. I'm pretty jealous about that.
Are you going to
Um,
import it?
I thought about it, man. I thought about it, but postage is just such a pain in the ass coming from there, and the paying for the tracking and all that. I don't know. I don't know. I gotta think about that some more. And lastly, that were like that Evil Within or whatever. The
Yeah. Here's a funny story. I was hired to work on that game, and what happened was the job like disappeared like before I started.
no
Yeah,
shit.
I was supposed to be working as translation in the for the kind of programming section, and then when the game actually was finished to do the localization,
Uh-huh.
and they hired me to do it, but it was like not the job ended up not being available after like they changed their mind on how they were going to do it, so that like the job disappeared.
Wow, how fucking amazing would that have been,
Yeah, I
dude?
actually would have been working for that company for Tango. I would have been
Oh, that's
going to their office every day,
that is awesome, dude. Truly.
but it didn't actually happen. So I started working on other stuff.
Yeah. Damn. Well, that sucks, dude. But I think I'm pretty sure that's all I have off the top of my head. There might be a few more. My list is not with me right now, but
I
I think for the most part that's about it.
Yeah, see, there's still a lot of really good games coming out for the older systems, and I think even in going into probably 2015, there'll still be games coming out, and
Yeah.
you know that's the kind of thing where like even now there's still games coming out for the PSP, and I mean not so much in the US, but in Japan like games come out for the PSP like almost every week, so it's the kind of thing
Yeah.
where there's still stuff coming out, and I assume that companies are going to still be releasing stuff for the PS3 and the 360 in 2015 as their games people are still releasing stuff for the PSP now.
For sure. I'd say even more so than the transition between the Xbox 360. Well, the Xbox, they just said, okay, we're done. That's it, done. And then the PS2 obviously gradual down. But what seems weird about this one is that, okay, it's been since 2000, what, five and six since consoles came out, and you know, as it got into like 2010, 2011, 2012, everybody was like, "Oh, this has been the longest generation ever," and "Oh, we're ready for new consoles." It just seems like for as long as this console generation has been, it's like when the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One came out, you had just had like Grand Theft Auto 5 that released, like The Last of Us had come out a few months before. Beyond Two Souls. It just seems like there was so many big games coming out still that like these new generation systems like almost came out like too quick. It's like it turned in from, oh, it's been forever to all of a sudden, whoa, wait a minute, these are already out. I mean, there's still a shitload of games that are still coming out for the PS3. It's kind of like an odd catch 22 where it felt like forever, but once they were here, it's like, whoa, this kind of came on fast. I'm still playing Grand Theft Auto 5, or I'm still doing whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's also kind of compounded by the fact that pretty much every console at launch has like a couple of months of dry spell afterwards.
Yeah.
Um, there are pretty much no consoles that have launched and had a steady stream of software coming out, and
No.
unless you think about something like the Super Nintendo or whatever, but again, that game the Super Nintendo launched in the U.S. and didn't and had a steady stream of software since its launch, but only because it launched a year earlier in Japan, and then they just started porting those games over.
Yeah.
That was like the only reason there was a steady software. Like the same with the Dreamcast is pretty much the same. There was kind of a steady stream
Yeah.
in the beginning for the Dreamcast,
Yeah.
but again, it came out in Japan like a year earlier, so it was just
Yeah.
essentially ports.
I was gonna say Dreamcast as well. Had a pretty steady, and even the Vita like had a great launch, man. But I guess we can't say the same for moving forward. But started off good. But
Yeah, it's
that,
weird to say that because for me the Vita is really awesome in it, and games come out for it all the time.
uh
But yeah, if you've ever looked at the difference between the Vita games released in Japan and the Vita games released in the U.S., I think there's like about 80 more games released in Japan than there are in the U.S.
yeah, there's no comparison. No
It's like
comparison.
something ridiculous. There's like it's like a ridiculous amount of extra games in Japan over the U.S. So
Yeah.
it's weird too because like in Famitsu, every week they list the games that are coming out for the systems, and the games that are coming out, the list for the Vita is always bigger than the 3DS. There's always more games coming out for the Vita than there are for the 3DS
Not,
in Japan. I mean, I'm not in the US. I think it's totally the
yeah,
opposite.
yeah. I've read like a couple articles, if I'm not mistaken, that said like the Vita has like outsold the 3DS for like a couple of months there,
Yeah,
in a
it
row
did
or
for a
something.
little while because combined, not, I think it did just for the when the new colors came out, and then when the Vita TV came out.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, it's not. I mean, it's nowhere near selling as much as the 3DS. But the as
Right.
far as games coming out, it always has more. And
Mhm.
it's weird because like another thing, this is a little off topic, but the in Famitsu when they list the games that are coming out, they always have like a this kind of like mystery section at the end of it where it's like there's no date for these games, but they're being developed. And it's sometimes like in that list there'll be like you can find games that haven't been announced, and it'll
Uh-huh.
be like unspecified game in this series being developed for this system. And sometimes you can find stuff that's interesting. So like you'll go through and like recently I'm looking and I'm like, hey, Shin Megami Tensei for the Vita, what are you doing on that list?
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah, like unspecified Shin Megami Tensei title for the Vita on that list. And
Wow.
this is like last year there was unspecified Persona title for the 3DS, and now this year we have the announcement of it. So
Man.
it's pretty interesting if you look at those.
Yeah. Real quick, I wanted to bring up, you mentioned Vita TV, and that's obviously I've heard a lot of people like be pretty strong in their voice that they want it to come out here. Is that something that's doing well over there, and are you interested in picking it up?
The Vita TV sold a lot in the first week, but after that it's been way down. But I'm wondering if it's way down because there's no stock, or if it's way down because like everyone who wanted one pretty much got one.
Yeah.
And really, I don't know. I honestly don't know. The game store near my house hasn't had any in stock since it came out. So I'm wondering if it's just like that store doesn't have any consoles, or just like the supply is really short. And
Oh,
so I don't actually know. I haven't done a lot of research into like the supplies of the Vita TV, obviously. But
yeah.
you know what? I was gonna buy a Vita TV like right off the bat because was just gonna like, oh well, I can stream from the Vita TV to my computer and capture footage. But
Uh-huh.
actually, you can't. So
Oh,
yeah, it's
yeah.
that thing where they have it's the same as the PS3. Like you can't stream from
Yeah.
you can't capture footage.
Yeah.
So I
It's
didn't
it,
pick one
it
up.
seems it seems really interesting, man, but the main problem that I have is that like a lot of my favorite games in the Vita use the touchscreen and the back trackpad in some fashion, and from what I've read, like the games that use those features don't even work on Vita TV, so I don't really understand why they would release something that kind of cuts their already small library, US speaking wise, in half. You know what I mean? I don't really get,
Yeah,
you know,
I think like the thing with that is that well, I mean that's probably why it's not out in the U.S. but
Yeah.
also because in Japan, a lot of the most popular games that were previously not functioning, a lot of them were patched to work with the Vita TV. Like
Okay.
that, what's the Senran Kagura, um, the kind of ninja girls with big tits game.
Right, right.
That the one on the Vita was patched to work with the Vita TV, and a lot of there's a lot of stuff that comes out on the Vita, like visual novels and stuff like that,
Yeah.
that will work on the Vita TV with no problem.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I think a lot of the stuff that people were excited about playing, like God Eater and Soul Sacrifice and Tokiden, those kinds of games, all work
Uh-huh.
right out of the box.
Oh, cool.
So, the Vita TV actually, it seems to me like a pretty good idea. I like the idea of it because there are a lot of people who would want to play games on the Vita but don't want to play it on a Vita. You know what I mean? Like they don't like handheld
Yeah.
gaming, but they want
Yeah,
to
the
play
screen.
some of those games.
Yeah.
And in the US, I think that's more prevalent than in Japan. I think there's more people who would be, you know, down with buying a Vita if they could plug it into their TV and just play it that way.
Yeah.
And
A lot of people say that too. 9 times out of 10 people that I talk to when I ask about like, oh, do you have a Vita? Do you have a 3DS? Like, oh, no, I can't stand those small screens. I've got to play it on a TV. So yeah, like you said, it's a big issue for some people.
another thing that I liked about the Vita TV that I haven't heard of many people talk about. I mean, not that I've heard many people talk about the Vita TV, but the coolest thing I noticed about the Vita TV is that it upscales PSP games. So I don't know if you've ever connected your PSP to your TV, but I have, and it plays in a window. It doesn't
Yeah.
stretch full screen. But if you
Yeah.
play a PSP game through the Vita TV on your TV, it upscales to be full screen. So
Oh shit. No, at $100, to me, honestly, that's worth the price of admission right there.
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if for example, you can actually buy a PSP upgrade, like a PSP upscaler, and those cost
Uh,
about $70. So it's the kind of thing where like, well, might as well just get a Vita TV at that point.
yeah, that's a no-brainer there, really. Shit.
So that was like a pretty cool thing I thought, and it upscales your PS1 games also in the same way. I mean, the
Okay.
PS3 does that already, but the
Yeah.
if you don't have a PS3, I mean, you can still play the Vita TV in and all of those like PS1 titles from the PlayStation Network and PSP titles you can upscale on your TV. So you get the extra bonus there of like getting it PSP games also that you can play on your TV instead of on a handheld. I think like that kind of thing might be a good seller for the Vita TV. It's just it's not out in the US and they've never announced anything about it being released outside of Japan, but they
Uh,
should because I think that would probably do. I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to do awesome in the US, but I think it would do, pretty good. Good enough to warrant it being sold there.
yeah, I mean, I think you know, as a product, it makes much more sense in today's time and age than it did a few years ago releasing a PSP Go.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it makes a lot more sense I think than than the PSP Go. And pretty much everything makes more sense than the PSP Go though.
Pretty much. I walked into Kmart the other day and I saw in the very back section of the electronics underneath like the display they had two black PSP Goes and a white PSP Go on clearance for I think 34.99, all three of them, like shoved in the way back.
I would totally have bought a PSP Go for $35.
I bought all three of
Did
them.
you? Holy shit.
I did, man, because you know what? Number one, even if I decided to sell a couple of them, for 35 bucks, man, to have, that much built in, what is it, 16 gigs? I mean, I just said, fuck it, dude. You know,
That's that
35 bucks.
man.
I couldn't leave them there, man. I couldn't.
The thing is like the PSP Go. The problem is obviously the main problem is that you can't play any of your games that you already own.
Right.
But unless you're like obviously unless you're downloading all of your games, but all of the games weren't even available for download and haven't been available for download since the beginning of the PSP.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not really an option for some stuff. But if I kind of understand the mindset of the PSP Go, it's just like wasn't happening for most people who were fans of the PSP and already had a PSP library.
Exactly. And the only reason I've got so many PlayStation Network purchases, man, that I could probably fill up two systems worth of games. You know what I mean? So I for that price, I couldn't
Do
leave them
you buy
there.
a lot of PlayStation Network PSP games?
I didn't. I mean, I did back when I first got into the PS3. And they started release. I bought a lot of like PlayStation 1 classics, man. Like a lot of the role playing games and older games. I bought a lot.
I mean, I have a lot of PS1 classics.
Not so much like PSP games digitally, no.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the PSP Go, like the problem for me is that like the reason I didn't ever buy one was because not that um you know I didn't want to have any PSP games downloaded. It's just that I have like only two PSP games downloaded, but I have I probably have about 10 or 15 PSN classics downloaded.
Yeah,
And the problem with that is that I already have a PSP that can play those, and I have a Vita that can play those.
right. Yeah,
So it's the kind of thing where like it's not really a necessary thing for me. But if at the time I had like not been buying physical copies and I had been just downloading PSP games,
uh-huh.
it would have been like a no brainer because it's a smaller system. It's smaller and it's actually like pretty well designed. It's just not a it's just the kind of thing where like it's kind of face palming because nobody wanted it 5 years ago or whatever. When did it come out? Not 5 years ago.
Uh, it wasn't quite that long ago. I think it was what was it like 2009 maybe?
The Go?
Was
Is
it?
it that long ago?
You know, now that I think about it, it might have been 5 years, dude. It might have been. I know it was because the Vita came out in 2012, and it was quite a bit before the Vita. I
Oh,
want to say at least 3 years before the Vita. So I mean, it's going to be 2014, so it had to have been maybe 4 years ago.
hmm.
I I'm drawing a blank as to when it came out, but I I bought the three of them. And I put one up on eBay and it sold instantly for like $75. So
All right. Money
I pretty
back.
much yeah I pretty much paid for two of them, you know, for free. You know what I mean? So
Okay,
that
let's
was
see.
that was the intention.
Wow, yeah, you're right. 2009.
Yeah, that's
Insane.
yeah yeah. Time flies, man. But that was definitely a big flop. So moving on, we were going to discuss some games we've been playing, obviously, and we were going to talk about some of our game collecting goals. But as you guys know, the holidays are very fastly approaching, and I myself have to get up extremely early in the morning and start making the rounds of going to see family members that you don't see quite so often throughout the year and taking the kid and seeing family members. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to cut this episode short. But the next episode, I can promise you, we will talk all about some of our retro game collecting goals, talk about some games we've been playing, amongst the various other topics. And I just want to say to you, Joe, it's been great talking to you once again.
Yeah, it's
And
always
now
good talking to you. Good catching up after all this time, months.
For sure. And now that I've got a schedule that is, more that of a normal human being where I'm not working all night and sleeping all day, we should be able to roll this podcast on a pretty regular basis, whether that's weekly or bi-weekly, whatever. Um, we'll definitely keep this train going from now on. So
All right.
it's good to be. I want to, wish everybody a happy Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, or whatever holiday you celebrate. Happy to you, Joe. Have a good time.
Yeah, it's rare for me to actually have Christmas off because it's like Valentine's Day Part 3 or whatever in Japan. But I actually do have it off this year because it falls on one of my normal days off. So I have
Good.
Christmas off, and I usually have a Christmas party at my house. So,
Oh, nice.
you know,
I guess real quick before we go, do you have any games like you usually play around the Christmas time that helps you get into the spirit, or any favorites of yours that you bust out around this
for
time?
Christmas, no. Can't think of anything. Last year I played, well, Yakuza 5 came out last year, and it's like based around Christmas. There's like gangs of angry fighting Santas and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, but I don't play that every year. I just ended up playing it last year.
Okay.
How about you? Do you
Okay.
have any Christmas games?
I always pop in Christmas nights.
Oh, okay, that's
Uh,
short.
yeah, usually on like Christmas Eve and just like, taking the music and the snowy backgrounds and just go through and play that, get myself in the mood and a little bit psyched up for it. But, not traditionally like a certain set of game or anything, but I always like to pop in Christmas nights around Christmas time.
That's
And
not a
it,
bad choice.
yeah, good music and yeah, I always like nights, man. It's a good holiday game to play.
You remember getting that when it came out with the controller.
Yeah, that was good stuff, man. Damn good stuff. Any last words, my friend?
I have nothing left to say. Hopefully, we'll have more of these out eventually, and we'll get everything going again.
Yeah, for sure. We'll try to have one out before the new year.
Yeah, if you're available, that's cool. That's
Yeah,
cool.
I'll be busy during the Christmas, but day or two after, definitely come back on do an episode, talk about what we got for Christmas or what games we bought ourselves, and then some of those retro collections that we're looking to finish off, and some games we've been playing recently. It'll be a good time.
All right, should be fun.
All right, take it easy, guys. Thanks for
All
listening.
right, see you next time.